make sure your characters have a reason to be characters, because it means that when the DM's trying to get your ass to go fight the dragon, to go explore the town, they don't have to crowbar you. Your characters should want to be on an adventure. And if they aren't, it's going to lead to burnout in your DM, because they're going to have to constantly be forcing your character to be an adventurer. If you have a character you've made that has no reason to want to be there, has no reason to want to fight, has no reason to want to explore, has no reason to be curious or interested in anything the DM's giving you, the DM's going to get burnt out because it seems like you don't want to even be here playing the game, because your character doesn't want to be here in the game. So don't do that. Make your characters have a reason to want to be there.
Welcome to the Dungeon Plunger Podcast. My name is Jason Weeb, and this is the show in which I, a real-life janitor and dungeon master, teaches you how to plunge in and run a better Dungeons & Dragons game. Without further ado, let's plunge into this week's episode, A Pint of Burnout! Welcome, Dungeon Plunger Union members. Just before we start this interview, I just wanted to give you the heads up. There is a little bit of potty language in here. My mom is probably going to cry. So just be warned, there is some cussing. And there is a little bit of violence that gets discussed later on in the show. So, listener, be warned. Plungers up, baby.
Let's get it on.
Welcome, Dungeon Plunger Union members. I have my +1 plunger, a steaming hot cup of holy water blessed by Saint Keurig, and I've got that feeling. That feeling like I'm not alone. Because today, we have 2 Union members with me to help plunge the dungeon and flush evil down the drain. Welcome to the show, Jay and Matt.
Hey there, happy to be there.
Jay and Matt are 2 of a crew of 12 members of an actual play podcast called A Pint of Cthulhu. And in this interview, we're just going to take a dive into who you are, talk a little bit about your podcast, and hopefully ring out a little bit of game mastering advice and talk about GM burnout. Starting with Jay, because, ladies first, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So, my name is Soren J. or Jay. I have been a member of Pint of Cthulhu from the very start, and I generally am a game master for D&D. I've done a little bit with a couple of smaller TTRPGs. I did a little one-shot with Amu on the podcast way back, played a little bit of Call of Cthulhu, and I am currently writing Season 5 of Pint of Cthulhu on a homebrewed system.
Wow, that sounds like a lot, and that's a pretty impressive list. When you talk about playing D&D, are you talking like 5e or which version?
5e.
Yeah, okay.
I've been a long time fantasy fan, but I didn't get into D&D until basically when we started the podcast, I think. Played it all since about a month before then.
Have you moved on to the 24 edition?
No, I saw that system and I was like, no, thank you. I'm sticking with what I know.
That's fair.
I didn't like a lot of the changes there.
Fair enough. And how about you, Matt?
I only really played D&D to start off with. Funny enough, one of the original ones I played was the MTG crossover version.
Oh, wow. Are we talking Ravnica?
I think so. It was one of our old members, James. He ran it. But it was never more than probably only about 3 or 4 hours at most. And yeah, that was it.
Which version of D&D would you call your own?
The 5e.
Yeah.
Not the new one, but the standard one. The good one.
Is that where you started in D&D?
Yes.
Or, yeah?
Yes. That's where I started. Again, my knowledge and experience of TTRPGs really just started with this.
Holy cow. That's amazing that you really dove into the deep end on this. That's impressive. I'll start with you, Jay, again. Do you have a preference as a GM or a player?
I think my preference to play is just anything new and innovative. It's so much fun to play these smaller TTRPGs that we do a lot of one-shots and playtests with. Things like Dan's Macabre, Doom Song, Salvage Union, which isn't really small. It's pretty well acclaimed at this point. But
well, it is now.
Those little, trying out a bunch of different things and having people who are really passionate about it run it is the best. As a GM, D&D is simple. It's plain, it's laid out, and it's very easy to adapt or twist to things you like. So it's a lot easier for me to run than to learn a new system every week.
Not to mention it's also on Roll20, so that generally does help a lot.
Yeah, tools like D&D Beyond and such as well can be quite helpful.
Yeah, that was going to be another one of my questions was, I'm assuming because you guys are spread out across the UK and in the States, and do you have people outside the UK that are in the crew? Obviously, having to play online is a key feature for you. Have you guys done the face-to-face tabletop before?
Nope. We haven't as a podcast, but I think, have you played face-to-face?
Oh, I mean,
outside of it?
Yeah, I've played face-to-face with James, as I said earlier, but in terms of the crew playing face-to-face...
June, buddy.
June, yeah. I mean, the only people I've actually met face-to-face is Cartman, Jay, and Flower. That's really it. I've only met the three of them. Cartman I've known for donkey's years, but Flower I met at Comic-Con, Jay I met at Comic-Con.
Yeah.
Just we knew each other for about a couple of years, isn't it?
Yeah. We are going to, well, most of the podcast is meeting up in June. Sadly, Tukin, who is our USA member, will be stuck on the other side of the pond, but we'll be playing a game of sorts together then.
Okay, that's pretty awesome. And so, Matt, do you have a preference as player or game master?
See, I can GM for quite a while before I end up getting burnt out, but playing-wise, yeah, I think I probably end up prefer playing purely because you don't have that added stress of having to run the damn thing. And you can just generally be what you want to be.
What was it that drew you guys into the role-playing hobby then? Because I had sort of assumed that you had already been long-term gamers, tabletop gamers. So what was it that drew you here?
Oh, I love telling people this. Matt, the mad lad that he is, was a Twitch streamer. So was I. He played with Cap and Tukin. And I was in their chat sometimes because I also was a small-time streamer. And Cap was Scottish, so same as me. So I paid attention to streams a bit. Matt just messages me out of the blue. Hey, want to be on a podcast? We're playing Call of Cthulhu. Yep, it's true. Never played a TTRPG before in my life, but let's go.
I don't think we'd even spoken on mic at that point, had we?
We hadn't because you thought I was an old Indian man.
Just purely because of the username. What got me into it was, funny enough, I was at work listening to the Arkham Files. I found their show on Spotify randomly, and they were still are playing Call of Cthulhu. But slightly customized at the time campaigns. They've now got completely self-written campaigns out the wazoo. And there was a point in my head that I was just like, I want to do this. We can do this. I need to find people to do this. And yeah, I just sent out the messages to like a couple of people, went, you want to do it? Funny enough, everyone said yeah. So we did.
When you were doing your Twitch stream, was that a video game stream that you were doing?
Yeah, yes.
It was video game streaming, and Cap, Took, and Matt were streaming Sea of Thieves. I think it was primarily
Drunken
together. Drunken Sailors. And
I passed out.
Yeah, more than once he fell asleep in cave. Killed me.
On the wheel.
Yeah. And
like fell asleep for real?
Yeah, passed out.
I drank so much I passed out.
Which is why we're a Pint of Cthulhu.
Oh yeah, that was definitely going to be one of my questions when we got to talking about the podcast, was where the name came from. So I guess that answers that question. That's great.
It evolved out of the Drunken Sailors because we did Drunken Sailors on, I think it was Fridays. And then we were like, all talking at one point, well, what are we going to call this thing? And so we're all drinking. So I think we spitballed a few names around or whatnot. But yeah, the pint theme seemed to go along, and then we're playing Cthulhu. So it's like, Pint of Cthulhu.
Wow. Yeah. Okay.
We just jumped in with no prep, no forethought, no plan. Just go for it.
I love it. I think that's the way everybody should approach life. Is there a preferred title? Because I know in a lot of gamers, depending on the era when they started playing, they prefer the term game master or dungeon master, referee, judge. Is there a specific title that you feel encompasses or that you prefer when you're talking about being a game master?
I usually use dungeon master just from habit.
Okay.
Well, you say that, but then again, Bliss Critters is the producer, Salvage Union has its own one, Doomsong has its own one,
Cthulhu has its own one, yeah.
Yeah, I think
so.
The Keeper of Arcane Lore or something like that.
Keeper of Arcane Lore. So I don't think there is a specific title you can use, because each game, if it has its own, then it's its own.
Right.
Game Master tends to be the one used for like a all-encompassing one.
Yeah, GM, DM.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I try to use, just to, like you said, because there are so many different titles. I thought if there was something that you guys preferred to be called, or when we're talking about the subject, that I would try to stick to that. We've sort of established you guys kind of got into this hobby just sort of willy-nilly, all of a sudden jumped in. Do you have a favorite RPG system or a specific RPG that if I was stuck on an island, this is the one that I'd want to have with me?
Doom Song.
See, I have two separate categories. Games I want to play, as in be a player in, and games I want to run. And they do not have overlap. I do not want to run Doom Song. I love it. The lore is so cool. I love it so much. It was so fun to play. I would never run it. The same for Dance Macabre, the same for so many game systems. So it's kind of hard to pick a favorite between that.
Okay.
I think Doom Song is up there, though. It is such a good game.
Who makes Doom Song?
Caesar Inc. They're an indie team. CAESAR Inc. It was a Kickstarter last year before?
Year before has to be. Doom Song was a while ago, right?
I can't remember now, but they're two very beautiful books. The dust covers are absolutely exquisite, and underneath has the embossed... It's a leatherette, so it's the embossed image of their coin.
Since we're talking about the games that you're into, what is it about these indie games? Because it seems like your podcast focuses a lot on the indie game scene. What is it that drew you guys to that as opposed to just continuing a straight up D&D thing? Because I know you had in one of your seasons, you did do the Minds of Phandelver. There was a Cthulhu one that you did, if I'm not mistaken.
Season
Cthulhu
1, yeah.
was first, but that's been pulled down because it needs to be re-edited.
Okay.
D&D was second, Fallout was third, Critters is fourth.
I've only listened to the one episode of Blister Critters, which sounds hilarious. This kind of mutant bugs living in like some sort of weird post-apocalyptic world where humans have disappeared, and listening to you voice the crocodile was fantastic. That's exactly what a crocodile sounds like. I loved the premise of where you guys were at. What's the deal with the indie games that you guys are
I
into?
think at least a part of it, Matt does most of the organizing because he knows how. But I think part of it is that urge that we both have to constantly be doing something new, trying something new. And of course, the reaching out to others in the community, trying to get their opinions on stuff, trying to get connections with each other, that sort of thing too.
Before I forget, find the playtest we did of List Critters first, because that we're all playing in, and the guy that one of the guys that created it is running it. That is probably a little bit more funnier. It's shorter as well. But why indie? I like to probably describe myself as a bit of a magpie. I trolled through Kickstarter for quite a while, and anything that took my eye, I just went, that one. That's basically how most of them ended up on the show, purely because of magpie vision.
I think a lot of us gamers, particularly like game masters, are drawn to Kickstarter. We're drawn to these new worlds and the potential for what they offer. You know, whether it's a new rules system or whether it's just a different kind of story, or the potential for these different kinds of adventures that they might offer. How important do you guys feel the rule system is versus the actual play of the game?
I feel like they're so linked, because if you have a really complicated, hard to understand rule system, the play is not going to be good. But you can have a very simple rule system that's not anything special, and so long as the game, the story, and how it plays are special, it can be a fantastic game.
I would say it's debatable. Some games are complicated to learn, yes. But once you learn them, it does lend itself to a bigger world. You can do more with the setting if you know more in depth about the setting. But it is more of an investment to have to learn everything about it. I think a good one for that is probably, I would say, Salvage Union, because that's a slightly tricky system to learn with all the scrap mechanics and things like that. I could be probably wrong on that to some people. Some people might look at it and go, oh, cool, I understand that. Or even Our Brilliant Ruin. That's an interesting kettle of fish, but that could be a very fun game. The settings alone are incredible, but you need to know the rules to be able to make that setting worthwhile.
One of the things when you do an interview for your show, you ask people, what drink do you think a pint of Cthulhu would be? So let me just make the turntables turn turn back to you guys and see, what would you think, Jay, is a pint of Cthulhu to you?
A pint of Cthulhu to me is probably, I've said this before, I think somewhere, but have you ever heard of Gonster? People mixing Monster and Guinness.
Oh my
it's something
God.
that kind of muddy, green, god-awful color. It's something that I think it should taste a little bit peaty, a little bit gritty almost in your mouth. It shouldn't be something wholly pleasant to drink, and it should look mildly radioactive at minimum.
Wow. That is I have a visual right now. That's intense.
Oh, I'll find you a picture of Gonster.
I would go for an actual pint glass. I would say you want at least a good 3/4 of it being a very thick mead. Have you ever seen blue Curac?
No.
It's I think it's like a liqueur or a mixer or something. I think House of Bowls make it. You basically would it's a thick bluish liquid. You layer that on top, the last third, and then I would almost say you'd want to splash Baileys so it goes down between the two layers, so you get that kind of like hand tentacly look.
Wow.
I don't know why that came into my head, but that is something I actually kind of want to drink now.
Is the Gonster something that you guys are actually going to do when you hook up for your meeting this summer?
Phrasing.
So,
oh, sorry.
Yeah, it's a Pint of Cthulhu. Oh, never mind. PG. I won't continue that line of thought.
Yeah. No worries.
I said at some point that in June we should get all the drinks from the interviews and try them. Make a little fun little video or recording, whatever, of us trying the god-awful Cthulhu drinks. Matt at some point went, "No, just you, Jay." And I promptly protested that I would throw up if I had to drink, what is it, like 30 interviews worth of drinks?
Oh my god.
It's too many.
30.
You guys have been doing this, I think, since 2023. Is that right? The podcast? Or has it been longer?
I think it was August 22 when our first one actually went up, but that got, obviously, I say that was removed.
Yeah, the season got
yeah. Maybe that's why when I was looking at
August 22.
During that time, do you have some favorite or not so favorite moments?
Specific moments are kind of hard to pick out because it's so long ago, but
there's one we're both going to say, isn't there?
Go ahead, go for it.
You know the one I'm on about. In the swamp.
Oh, the fucking murder thing that pisses me off to this day.
No, the shotgun. The shotgun.
Oh, the shotgun baby. Yes. Oh, the baby shotgun. We need to get season 1 back up purely so that exists for people to reference. My character for that season was called Enid. It was near the end of the season, kind of. It lasted a bit longer than that. Her backstory was in full swing. She had a monstrous mother, a human dad, and her monstrous mother had shown up with a half-human, half-monster baby, trying to hand it to the dad. One member of our podcast raises his shotgun and asks if he can shoot the baby.
Oh my gosh. This was Call of Cthulhu, this scenario?
Yeah.
This campaign? Yeah,
Yep.
That sounds pretty horrific.
And he does successfully shotgun a newborn infant, and it does turn into, as I think Matt said, red mist.
Wow.
In front of Enid.
Yeah, pure red mist.
And everything from there goes to shit. The moment I was going to say was actually really early on in the podcast. There was, because I'd never been on a podcast before. I'd only done like solo streaming. I didn't know anyone really that well or at all. Even Matt I'd spoken to a couple times watching the Twitch stream, but not beyond that. But there was this moment, and I think one of the first episodes, where Enid falls down a hole in a church, and she has weak little wimpy old woman arms, so she can't get herself out, and she like manipulates Gertrude lightly into saving her. And I think that was the moment I was like, oh, this works. These people are very funny. I can get along with them great. It's going to be hilarious. I can't wait to see where we go with this.
Nice.
I think one of the ones I'm going to have to say, even though it was an absolute pain in the backside, was having to re-record. I think it was, what episode was it? D&D? It was episode
D&D, like episode 3, I think, 3 or 4.
3. We had to redo it 3 times purely because Cartman had messed it up so badly. It was just unusable.
So how does that work? How do you do you did a session 3 times in a row?
Yeah, same scenario, run it back, Groundhog Day style.
Wow.
And I say I hated it, but in that scenario, the first time we did it was absolutely perfect. I ended up with my own cult.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we had to redo it. So I lost that cult.
And
we'll never know.
Tucken, the beloved bastard, if you're listening to this, this is said with affection, that motherfucker used his knowledge of what we would do to screw us in the second recording and then the third one even more. He knew what we were planning and he made it so that it couldn't possibly work the same way. So we had to find new things each time.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. I love it.
The funny times, because there's loads of these, I could probably go on for a little while. They've just cut me off whenever. I want to say our first interview, Alex.
Oh, yeah.
Because I was so damn nervous at the time. Because I'm not going to lie, I was fangirling a little bit. I think the messages back and forth were like, oh, if I screw this up. And these days it's just like, hi.
I can relate to that.
I think almost the curse of TTRPG podcasts is that the funniest moments are the ones where things go wrong, minorly or majorly. Like the Diddle Dominator is fucking hilarious. I love it so much. It happened entirely because Tukin couldn't come to a session and we decided to bully his character mercilessly because of it. There's other things like that, I'm sure. I can't remember. Cartman's fucking up the religious checks in the D&D season was hysterical, but incredibly annoying at the time.
The obsidian penis.
Oh yeah, yep. Diddle Dominator Mark 1.
That's great. What I find really interesting about your show is that each season you focus on a different game and you have a different GM. So talk to me about that. Whose idea was that and why did you guys decide to go that route?
Do you know what? I'd say it's Tukin's idea for why we do a different one. Because I remember the original plan was we would keep going through Call of Cthulhu at one point. Because I was writing up...
You were translating the Polish version of a Call of Cthulhu manual at one point.
I had the plan to integrate Berlin the Wicked City, Warsaw... I can't remember if it's The Damned or Warsaw the Lost. That is only in Polish. I spent a good couple of weeks going through Adobe, Google, just translating everything I could.
Wow.
That story doesn't translate well for us. It's not that good. There was one more I was going to integrate into it because it all fit. Time-wise, it fit in-game. And then Tukin was like, hey, do you mind if I run D&D next year? I'm like, yeah, all right. This might take a while to plan out. It went from there. So I think Tukin, actually, is who we have to thank for that.
It's also the start of our yearly seasons. We didn't have it set in stone how many episodes it was going to be, how many weeks we were going to play it.
Well, even Tukin's one was a bit different because we were doing 2 hour long. So he only did we had every other weekend. And then we moved to every week 1 hour, which we still do 2 hours worth of recording, but 2 hours makes 2 episodes rather than 1.
Talk to me a little bit about what goes into the planning for these seasons. You're talking about right now how you're working on the next season after Blister Critters.
When season 3, when Fallout was still running, was when we started planning Blister Critters, alongside the 3 other TTRPGs Matt and I were writing. Because we hear Brist way too close to the sun. And much like that, I'm currently writing season 5. Because it's a different dungeon master, game master, keeper, etc. each time, what goes into planning it will vary wildly. What Tukin did to plan it will vary from what Cap did to plan Fallout, from what Matt does to plan the current season. I will say that we are currently planning the current season, I should say. We do basically have a massive Google Drive document with subfolders for each area, for each enemy, for each thing that's going to happen that we roughly slap together and are still adding on to as the season progresses. For season 5, I am writing an entirely new game system because season 5 is Bloodborne, and Bloodborne does not have a proper TTRPG anywhere that I can find that I like, so I'm mad scientist something together, and I'm doing it much the same way. Big old Google Drive, different folders for different areas, working out the plot, splitting into chunks, then standing out every little piece after that.
What she's not saying is she's doing that on her own.
Yeah, because I am a freak about this game.
A narcissist.
Hey! Don't say the quiet part out loud. Yeah, Matt and I get along great, but we have very different ways of running games. So I'm doing this solo because I will be a maniac and a terror to anyone that tries to work with me on it.
So normally you would work on a season as a couple of you together, or is it normally an individual, and then if you're looking for help, you have somebody add on?
So Tukin, you would have to talk to him to really get his understanding of things. Tukin did it on his own. Cap did it mostly on his own. He had a few, I don't know, did you say like prompts in terms of just setting up the Roll20, and that was about it? He did the entire story on his own. Blister, I tried to write the damn thing on my own. I got 65%, or is that too generous?
A little bit less than that, considering it's not 100% done now. 65% of what we got done, maybe.
And then I just like, this is not going to be ready in time. I need to find someone to give me a hand. Jay offered, and then we just basically cracked out a ton of it. Again, it's still not finished as we're even starting to do half the next bits, but wing it. See what
That's our attitude.
Do you guys play games that are not part of your show? Like, do you guys have a regular gaming night that you do otherwise, or on your own?
Can't really get together often enough to do that, partially because of time zones, but mostly just because we're busy. don't really have time to do extra sessions. In fact, we sometimes struggle to do the regular ones for the podcast.
Play other games occasionally together. If everyone gets together, we can play something like did Civ 6, Overwatch, things like that. But TTRPG wise, if it's not for the show, then we tend not to really just have time for it because it's quite a time sink.
Yeah, I believe it.
Not in a bad way, though.
Yeah, no, for sure. The big focus of this show, Dungeon Plunger Podcast, is helping GMs run a better game. If you guys had one piece of advice that you could offer to new or veteran game masters, what would that be?
Learn your rule set, but at the same time, go with the flow. Because if something is happening and it's not written down, I think most TTRPGs in the beginning will have something along the lines of, if it's not written down, just do it. Make it up. Just have a little bit more faith in yourself, because talking to someone who sometimes doesn't, you can get yourself into a dark space by doing that. Just go with it. Or ask someone for help.
Yeah, I'd say start it. Don't worry too much about making the perfect game, and don't even fuss too much about how enjoyable you think it will be for other people, because it will be, probably. A lot of people in this community have self-doubt, have nervousness about it, especially for their first games. What works for me is figuring out the plot first and worrying about everything else later. Stats, pacing, everything else out the window until I know what the game's actually going to be about. Hell, sometimes I don't even pick a system until I know what I want to be telling as a story. But general, go for it. Don't worry. Don't wait around trying to figure out how to be perfect. Don't fret about not knowing enough or not having prepared enough. Get started writing your game and then get started playing it.
Both of you, that's great advice. I really like that. I think you guys really nail it. Do either of you feel that there's anything in your personal or maybe professional life, it could be gamer related or not gamer related, that has stuck with you and has helped you become the game master that you are?
This is going to sound really stupid.
There's no stupid things on the Dungeon Plunger podcast.
College times, obviously, I was a bit more experimental, shall we say, with a few substances. And one film that I absolutely adore to this day is Yellow Submarine. There is a scene in that Yellow Submarine where they just turn to the camera and one of them goes, "It's all in the mind." That has stuck with me since that point, because it is all in the mind. Everything is in the mind.
For me, I think it's a pretty generic answer. A love of fantasy in just the broad strokes. Yeah, sure, I can name like Lord of the Rings or whatever. I've never got into Game of Thrones, funnily enough, but I love of fantasy. I love escapism through it. I love the stories that people tell trying to get out of this world and into a different one as much as possible, because that will really get you looking to write stories, looking to play games, looking to try and figure out what kind of worlds you can make.
So when you're talking about getting into fantasy and fantasy worlds, do you have a specific, like you said, you're not into Game of Thrones, or you haven't really seen a Game of Thrones, but is there a specific brand, show, book, series that you are really drawn to?
So I was the kind of kid where I read every single fiction book on the shelf and then some constantly. But I will say that one book series that I don't really see talked about, well, two actually. One was the Ice Mark Chronicles, which didn't get me into fantasy, but gave me a really fun perspective on it. It was a children's kind of fantasy book. But I believe the first scene in it is a dude's eye getting picked out on a battlefield as every single person on it is already dead. Yeah, it starts.
And this was a kid's book?
Yeah, kid's book. Kid's fantasy book.
Oh my.
There's talking snow leopards in it.
Nice.
And it had such a different, it has such a different take on fantasy that most kids' fantasy had. It had like actual concerns about how the prince was going to handle grain stores and was going to handle diplomatic relations. And what do you do when there's a vampire kingdom next door and you can't just kill them about it? It had such a pitch to the left of typical kids' fantasy. At one point, the Roman Empire shows up with blimps, you know?
Wow.
And it got me really thinking about something that was more than a knight and a dragon and a princess in the tower and the very typical adventure stories. The other one, I can't remember the name of. I think it's called Black Sorcerer or something, the Black Magician.
Black Magician series.
I think so. I'll double check.
The Novice, the
yes,
High Lords. Yes.
I was
going to say that.
Oh, really? Wow. I never knew you read that before now.
I love those books.
It is a very typical girl with special magic powers in a world that already has magic kind of thing. But the system of magic in it was really interesting. It really handled magic as energy. I think like the black magicians would cut open people's palms and they'd be able to absorb magic through their blood, and magic was literally just life force. And they,
Yes.
and it was so fun how they handled that, and how they handled how draining some of their life force is fucked up, but occasionally militarily necessary, and all the stuff that came with the imbalances of power in that. It was so. I wouldn't recommend it as a good book series. It's not. It was fun. I loved it.
Sad.
It has a romance between a 12-year-old and a 33-year-old man.
Yeah, that's kind of weird.
Yeah.
That's the central romance. She has a kid with him.
Oh my God.
Mm.
I can see how something like that would really affect you and put you down the path that you're on now. And I love how it's not traditional what you would hear people typically saying. But I think also we live in a time now where there's such a variety of fantasy that people can choose from, and it's not so regulated to, this is old white man fantasy. This is more like, it feels more inclusive and fantastic, if I could say.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing where, and I used to be big into YA when I was a kid, so you notice you pick up books in a genre and a lot of them are very the same. You can figure out where the plot's going, who the villain is, exactly every step along the hero's journey just from reading the blurb. It's so nice occasionally to find the one book in 1,000 that is wildly off of that, and both the Black Magician series and Ice Mark are that in two different directions. I would recommend the Ice Mark trilogy as good books. They have their problems, they're fairly old. They are generally quite good to pick up and read, even if they are directed at kids.
If you want a good mix, I'd say Sabriel, Libriel, and Abhorsen. I can't remember I think it's the Abhorsen series. It's the daughter of a necromancer, and their job there's two sides of the world. There's a wall that separates it. One side is, I want to say it's kind of like a Victorian-ish era, maybe a bit later on. I mean, they've got cars, so it's a bit of a weird mix, but the further you go out, the more it kind of advances in technology-wise, but technology dies at the wall. On the other side of the wall is just fantasy, and the Abhorsen's job is to basically put the dead back through the gates to the underworld. And it's this kid that she's literally given a message, and it's like, right, you need to go to the house. Her dad is trapped in this battle with I can't remember what they call him now, but like the main bad guy of the series. And it's her going through and learning essentially that she can do the job. She's meant to do the job. And then the second one is, it's two of them. It's the two different roles of previous prophecy. It's really well written. I'm probably not going to do it justice by describing it, but the way it's written, they've got like the free magics, the charter magics, and it's just an interesting system to listen to. I think someone should make an actual thing about that one day.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe we can make that the sixth thing we're currently working on.
I was thinking that.
Oh, God damn it, man. No, you know you're better than this.
I have a question that was specific to Jay. Talk to me a little bit about your experience as a woman in the RPG space. Has that had any sort of an impact or an influence on you as a game master or as a player? And sort of the reason that I asked that question is just, I started playing 25 years ago. And so there wasn't really a lot of women that played role-playing games or D&D. And now it feels like the hobby has become much more inclusive, which is a good thing, and in general. And I'm just wondering, have you had sort of experiences as a woman playing the game that you sort of feel have impacted you positively, negatively, or is it just not something that even you think about?
Oh, it comes up. I think there's an interesting thing to note that both in this podcast, even with the guys we've had on that are no longer in it, I have been the only person that's not a man the entire time. And also I played D&D with college. Within the college, there was a D&D group that run on Thursdays. I used to play in that, and I was, again, only one not a man. The interesting contrast, I think, funnily enough, between A Pint of Cthulhu and that is that every man in the college group played a male character, and I was the only one playing a female character. We all stuck to it. Season 1, Pint of Cthulhu, I played Enid, and I don't want to misattribute Tukin that played Gertrude, immediately another female character from a dude, but it kind of made me feel instantly more at ease. I was just like, oh, okay, that's not going to matter here as much, and it hasn't mattered at all. There has never been a moment where I've been made to feel uncomfortable or where anything's been about that. It doesn't matter. No one cares, and that is something that is new and is good. I will say that I am non-binary, but I get the meaning of it regardless. It is odd how people are willing to be dragons and warriors and monks and healers, but God forbid they not be the gender they were born as in a game about banging dragons and slaying orcs.
Right. I've been thinking a lot about the hobby itself and how we approach it, how we think about it. I've noticed a lot of things that have changed since I first joined. And so trying to be more open-minded about the people that we sit with at the table and how we can be more welcoming and understanding to their situations. I really appreciate you talking about that and sharing that experience. And I think that's really fascinating because when I think back, I have played a female character, but typically I do play dudes. And I sometimes wonder about that. About what does that mean? Like, is there some sort of a psychological Freudian thing I need to go see a therapist about?
I think that two things. First of that, a lot of people in some ways view themselves or project themselves onto their characters. It's almost impossible to make a character that has no aspect of yourself. You can never do it. Whether you're writing like a character for a story or you're playing one, they're gonna have you in them. You're making them.
I just think what that says about us lot.
Oh God, no. But I think that is a lot of why people stick to the gender thing. Like I said, I played a female character in the first season. I then played a couple male characters because it felt like it. I played a female character in the college group too. I also stuck to what it was, but it's not whether you are a dude, whether you're a girl. It's whether you're made to feel like that matters or is like the most important thing in the group.
Right.
Immediately with Gertrude's existence, it was like, okay, this doesn't matter. No one is going to give a shit. And that
Gertrude
is
has become a flagship throughout the seasons.
God, love her.
There is one thing, Jay, you forget. Don't forget we had that one comment from someone.
Which was so stupid.
That's the only gender thing that's ever come up.
And it was someone trying to white knight me, which is I'm going to lose it. So in Fallout, in season 3, I was playing a character
Winniganster.
Winniganster, yeah. Remember her. I'm really bad with memory names in case it isn't woefully apparent. She was a kind of tight-laced, pretty young madam with a gun, and Billy Bob Firewater was a kind of roguish, flirty, ridiculous, over-the-top dude Tooken was playing. Naturally, he hit on Winnigan a whole lot, and someone who watched our podcast took great offense to this and wrote a scathing review saying that obviously the girl playing Winnigan must be so uncomfortable with that. That must be so horrendous. Meanwhile, I'm sitting here like, I've known Tooken for 3 years, bud. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
You're making my gender matter more
Right.
than it does to anyone on the cast. Because we had
we'd
Gertrude
already
in that
spoken
season.
about it, haven't we?
It's interesting because in one of my groups, I call it my youth group just because it has my daughter, her boyfriend, and 2 of their friends. They're about in their 20s. I mean, I'm 46, so to me, they're youths. But I always feel like I need to have a much cooler name for my groups. Like, I got Commando Squad B and, I don't know, something like that. But anyway, my daughter, we're doing Shadow Dark right now, and she created this character named Norbit, who's a gnome. And I never really got it because I guess I'm just dense, but I would ask often. I would be like, is Norbit a dude? Or is Norbit a girl? She's like, I don't know. And I was like, in my mind, I was always thinking like, maybe she just hasn't decided if it's a guy or a girl, or if she was just trying to be like, Dad, I don't know if you'll understand that Norbit's gender isn't really an issue here. And it's things like this, which I think are so vital to making us better at the table. Like, that's really what my goal is. And at the end of the day, when I'm doing this show, I mean, personally, I want to be better too. And I have a lot of growing that I need to do in that regard. But I just think that if there was a central tenet to being a good game master or being a good player, it's having that respect for the people that you share the table with, whether that's a virtual table or whether it's a real table.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, you got to remember the character is just a character. You can be whatever the heck you want to be. You're playing a game with dragons, let be a dragon or be a 2-foot dwarf. You know, you can be 7 foot tall and you can play a 3'4" character. Who cares? Whatever you want to make, just do it. It's like Cartman in Fallout. He played a robot. It didn't have a gender. It doesn't have any bits and bobs, but we called it Nurse Handy and he rolled with it.
That's a good point.
Gertrude in D&D. Cat just played an angry midget, essentially.
Let's just segue into, so kind of how this Yeah, that was a great segue, Jay. Good job. Not you, Jay. Me, Jay.
Oh, yes, we are both Jay.
Yeah.
All shall become Jay in time.
I
One
mean,
of us.
honestly, that's kind of how I see it. Matt, get used to it. It's going to happen sooner or later. Sort of what started us having a chat. I mean, I had wanted to like interview you guys at some point anyway, but what really inspired wanting to chat with you was that you, Matt, had been talking to me on Discord and talking about how you'd been going through a little bit of burnout on this latest season, and that Jay really helped you get your feet underneath you and help you to power through the season. And I know it's not done yet, but it sounds like she was super duper helpful. And you had messaged my show, left me a message on my SpeakPipe asking the same question about like, how would somebody deal with burnout? And I didn't feel like I gave that topic because I think it's a very complicated topic. I think it's something that's big and it deserves a little bit more attention. And so I was like, let's talk about that together. And I thought having Jay as well would be good since she was part of the process for you. So talk to me a little bit about burnout. What does that mean to you? What is GM burnout?
GM burnout is when you literally just don't want to look at it anymore. You cannot stand the sight of it. The idea of working on it just makes you want to just not do it at all. You want to put it in a cupboard and potentially just not do it anymore and change to something else. But you know you have to keep doing it, especially in the context of this show. We have to do, well, we don't have to, but we somewhat need to do 52 episodes or 51, depending on how we're looking at doing the ending. And if we don't have that, we don't have a year's worth of content. But at the same time, if you're burnt out and you're trying to force it, it's going to sound bad. It's going to be bad story writing. Although I must admit, players help bring that up, help keep it going, help keep it running. But if your GM's burnt out, you're not going to have as good of a game as you should do. And yeah, I must admit, having Jay around to help write the damn thing, I don't think it would have actually happened if it wasn't for her. Purely because trying to write the damn thing was an absolute chore. Because this game has no pre-written campaign. There's, I suppose, like 1 pages, but nothing for the long term. And at the time, it seemed like an absolutely incredible idea to just go balls to the wall and try and write 52 hours of a game that at the time I had only had the quick start guide of. And very quickly I realized that, oh dear, I'm in trouble here because there's a time pressure on the fact that season 3 was ending. Season 4's got to come out at some point. It's got to be on time. And it just added more and more pressure. I wouldn't say I'd had sleepless nights about it. You know, it's not that serious of a thing, but some people probably could. I'm not saying, I'm never going to say the system's bad because it's a great system. It's very well fleshed out. There's a few bits that we could think about adding into it. A couple of rules that we've come up throughout the game. But when you genuinely get that burnt out that you start to just hate the look of the damn thing, that is true burnout.
Were there other sort of symptoms that manifested beyond that? Or was it just really like, I don't want to do this?
From an outside view, well, I didn't see the start of Matt writing this season. I did see the breaking point and every point past that. I'm assuming you did not start out Blister Critters writing the season believing utterly that it was going to be a disaster.
Because no.
From Crisis Point onwards, the constant was, it's going to suck, it's not going to be fun. My God, why am I even doing this? And it has been fun, it has been great, but your faith in it is still just gone. But you power through regardless, man.
Self-doubt would be the main thing there. But yeah, it's, I don't know if a lot of people are enjoying it. I watch the numbers a lot, probably shouldn't do that. They drop throughout this season. I know the players say it's good, but I am constantly looking for that dopamine hit of reviews, and we tend not to get them. And when that dopamine starts starving, oh boy, does it start starving hard.
Do you feel that if you were running this game as just your group and not doing something to be produced for consumption by an audience, do you think that would have changed the burnout? Or do you think that had you been running this as a regular game, it would have been, you'd have been like, okay, that's cool. We're cool.
If this was not to be aired, I mean, our podcast is not the best out there. I will say that for a fact. We are good. We enjoy what we do. We're not the best. There's no way in hell we're the best. We enjoy it nonetheless. If this was not going to go out on air, this was just for us, there's a good chance that it would have been one area, maybe a break, maybe another area, maybe another break, maybe a couple in a row just to see how it felt. It would be more methodical and I think somewhat more play tested out. And if the feeling of it didn't go well, then we would have probably dropped it. What do you think about that one, Joe?
I think about, yeah, talking about a project that's been somewhat secret from us a little bit. Deep Dark was another thing we wrote. We were writing a entire season's worth of Salvage Union, which is a great mecha game that we've played before. And we got about 80% of the way through writing it. It's still sitting in the drafts folders, and then we just kind of faded from it. So I've ran a couple seasons myself and got burnt the fuck out and just stopped because I didn't have time. Burnout for me is slightly different than it is. I wonder if we would have ever brought Blister Critters to anything close to a finishing point if we hadn't had the evil motivation of it needing to be done.
Needs must, yeah.
Yeah.
I think
horrible feeling, but
I don't think Deep Dark's burnt out. I'd say that kind of got shelved purely because of the fact of that this took priority.
I did think we reached a point where we were trying to distract ourselves from it a little bit.
Yeah, I think we needed a bit of a break from it, but I don't think it got that bad. And not to forget, I mean, obviously we're both very scatterbrained.
Tell me, Jay, how does burnout manifest for you? So you briefly said that you were having a feeling of burnout on that project.
For me, I'm not diagnosed, but pretty confirmed that I have super bad ADHD. It's why my memory is very shit. It is why I couldn't sit still and paste for the first season of us recording. It is also why I can't pay attention to anything for very, very long. So what happens with me is that my brain will choose a time to just not be able to switch on to something. I can't focus on it. I can't think about it, not because it sucks, but just because my brain will not let me. It does not let me focus. It does not let me think about it. It does not let me do it. It does not matter how easy the task is or if it's sitting right in front of me. Brain chemicals say no, can't get it done. And that can last months or years. And that is what happened to the in-person D&D campaigns I ran for a small group. I got to a certain point and my brain just went, no, you're not allowed. And it drove me nuts. And then after that passed, anytime I looked at those campaigns, I felt immense guilt because there was no physical barrier stopping me from working on it. I ended a campaign that my players were enjoying because of this, and I don't really have a good reason other than brain said no. So now I can't work on those campaigns. I had entire worlds and plots stuck in a paper folder behind me because brain said no, and now I feel too guilty. And whenever I even think about that world, those stories, to even look at them right now. So generally a period of trying to distract myself from it, not being able to focus on it, and then feeling too bad about it to get back in it.
It's interesting you mentioned that about not being diagnosed though, Jay, because there are two of us that are diagnosed ADHD, myself and Toucan. We both are we are both recorded as ADHD. Toucan is on, I think he's on medication for it. I am not. I used to be, not anymore. But I think I would say at least two more people probably have it in the group, not just including yourself.
Yeah, I think you'd have an argument for everyone. I think one of us probably doesn't, but
Cap.
other than that, yeah, Cap. One of us were shit
is the
together.
only normal one.
I think you'll see actually a phenomenon in TTRPG spaces is a lot of people in neurodivergent. It's a way higher rate than in most other hobbies. Fun
I
little thing.
suppose just here myself.
Yeah. One thing I found to avoid it is just, and again, ADHD and autism probably got both. If there's something I know I can fixate on for a bajillion years, that is going to be something I will never burn out of, which is very, very fortunate. Bloodborne is one of those things. I could work on this for the next 7 years, and I know for a fact my brain will let me, which is why I'm letting that be the season. Hyperfixation is taking the wheel specifically so I don't burn out halfway through writing this and decide never to finish it, which is what happened with Deadlands, basically. I didn't even get halfway through that. I was initially supposed to be running season 4, but I couldn't get my brain to switch on to the game, so I begged Matt to please save me from my horrible fate.
It sounds like a lot of what you describe about the feeling of guilt and having, because I've done the same thing in my time as running a game. I've had games that were very, very successful and somehow I self-sabotaged, and I refused to believe that I was self-sabotaging. I didn't really understand that's who does that? Why would you do that to yourself? It took somebody talking to me and saying, hey, dude, this is what you're doing, for me to finally figure out, hello. So I think it's totally natural. When you saw Matt was dealing with this issue, how did you guys approach it? How did you decide? Because obviously you're still motoring along. So what was the solution?
With working through the Willy Wonka game we were making at one point, and then Salvage Union's Deep Dark, which we were working on, we'd got into the habit almost of knowing when the other person needed certain things. We were sort of leveraging each other up. In Deep Dark, there would be points where Matt would be like kind of slow almost because we've got this much done, don't want to think about it anymore. And there was a point where I nearly had a mental breakdown trying to understand the mission system that Matt helped me through. It's kind of almost like we're hooking our arms around each other, just dragging each other up a step, then the other one does it, then the other one does it, then the other one does it, to keep ourselves going, because we know when the other person needs that boost, needs that, okay, I get you don't want to do it, we need to get this done. More recently, though, in season 4, we are taking a bit of a break lately. There've been a couple nights where we're like, okay, this isn't working. We need to do anything that is not this game. Let's go have some fun.
Although we do need to probably do some more bits for the
we
next
do.
area.
We've been procrastinating a little bit too.
You know, you keep saying the Willy Wonka one, that the Touchy Touchy one, that came about because another podcast, friends of ours, Rob from the Untitled Trek Show, he hates Willy Wonka. So I purposely I went out of my way to try and, obviously I recruited Jay with it as well, but to write a absolute piss take of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, as dirty as possible. And when I say dirty, I mean you have the milking room and it's a bull, you know.
Uh-huh. That is also when we went a bit about what we like and think is fun in a game. Matt discovered I'm into extreme body horror in my TTRPGs very quickly in that one.
Yeah, some of that's disturbing as hell. But yeah, no, you hit the nail on the head there. There are certain bits that one of us can do, one of us can't do. And I do have to wonder, after we've finished 4, if we let the rest of the team look at it and see what else they can add to it. Because I have to wonder if that would... The thing about this is you cannot have your players seeing behind the GM screen because it ruins what their story would be. But once that GM screen doesn't have to be there anymore, would there still be the burnout? Because you're bouncing a lot more ideas around different people.
I'd say give it a bit, because the specific problem we had with Salvage, with Deep Dark, where you and I had different opinions on it, and we couldn't come to consensus a few times. We had to go get expert opinion from somewhere else. I can't remember who we called. We bothered someone about it incessantly.
Was it not Paniotti?
It might have been Panny. Because if you hear like 5 players who have played through the campaign, yep, they have knowledge of it, all go at you in different ways, it could be very overwhelming, especially if you just finished the campaigan. So maybe leave it at before you do that.
Yeah. It'd be area by area as well, and slowly but surely chip it away.
After we've edited a bit more too. Give them a nice version.
What I'm hearing is that you guys helped each other up when you guys were burnt. And you made the point, Matt, saying how it's easier when you've got the lifting done with other players around the table to help you, but you don't want them to necessarily see what's behind the screen. So how would you suggest getting players help in your campaign without seeing that sort of stuff? Like, you know, I think the first is sort of like recognizing that you have that burnout, but then once that's sort of been established, like what would you recommend players do to help you?
I think sometimes we do have a very brief overview of what the 2 hours are meant to be. I think just having the knowledge that they can, well, I mean, with enough prompting, RP a story out of it and that you could then feed off of in the missing gaps, or in the likelihood they take a left turn when you've programmed in a right turn. I don't think there really is much you can do in terms of having them write the thing, because again, you can't have the reader writing the story and then not know what's going to happen.
I think there's 2 things that people can do, and they're both things that our group sometimes does. Our group very much is the type to see a blue key and a blue door and say, okay, I'm going to use my hammer to break out the window. Like deliberately seeing where the GM wants you to go and going, nope, let's go somewhere else, just for the fun of pissing off the DM and fucking with them a little bit. It's all good. If you're super burnt out, and we know that, I think pumping the brakes on deliberately making your day harder is a thing that players can do. If you do it accidentally, fair enough, but you can pump the brakes on the taking the piss out of the DM for a session or 2, if you so choose. The other thing is part of kind of a bigger problem. It's not burnout related, but it does make burnout worse. Make sure your characters have a reason to be characters, because it means that when the DM's trying to get your ass to go fight the dragon, to go explore the town, they don't have to crowbar you. your characters should want to be on an adventure. And if they aren't, it's going to lead to burnout in your DM because they're going to have to constantly forcing your character to be an adventurer. If you have a character you've made that has no reason to want to be there, has no reason to want to fight, has no reason to want to explore, has no reason to be curious or interested in anything the DM's giving you, the DM's going to get burnt out because it seems like you don't want to even be here playing the game because your character doesn't want to be here in the game. So don't do that. Make your characters have a reason to want to be there.
Yeah, that's solid. You really nail it on the head with that. You guys have mentioned that you're working on the next season of the podcast. What else is in store for a Pint of Cthulhu podcast?
We do have a playtest of the Doomsong expansion happening next Saturday. Not a full playtest, like a one-shot scenario based off of it. Depending on who runs the season after Jay, it's either going to be one of the games we tested, which I would really like it to be, without giving it too much away. You know the one I'm on about.
Yes.
It's got its own track.
Yes.
Purely because I think that's absolutely amazing.
I'm glad I don't have to run it.
I don't know what the other one would be. That's the thing. I don't know what the other. Obviously, you're running Bloodborne. The next one could potentially be Cthulhu Dreamt,
but that is far from locked in.
Yeah, I mean we're talking about 2027, so that could change.
Aside from that, the usual fare of more interviews, more playtests, more one-shots, podcasters with TPT-RPG makers, the same good stuff. Maybe guest stars. Oh, the meetup and guest stars, because for season 4, Blister Critters, we're having a different person from the TTRPG community voice each boss. So you're going to see those guys if you're joined into the system.
That
if
sounds
I can get them
awesome.
to join in time.
Actually, hang on. New victim?
Possibly. True.
Interesting.
If you'd be interested in that, Jason, we potentially have a spot coming up.
Cool, man.
We'll see. And we are... Oh, God, there's something else we're going to do. I forget. We'll be doing
more
stuff.
writing.
Oh, God.
More writing. Yeah. At some point, I would like APOC to be able to have its, not necessarily its own system, but its own game. Like a genuinely 100% written campaign for maybe, I mean, we're doing that with Bliss Critters to a degree.
Bloodborne's entirely going to be handwritten. I think we should make a game Cthulhu themed at some point.
True. Yeah.
Mechanics
we'll see. There's ideas. We want to start potentially looking into some merchandising ideas, but again, we're not quite there yet in terms of numbers. And to be honest, trying to get manufacturers to do some bits and pieces is absolutely extortionate prices. We'll see. It's hard to say exactly what we're going to do, but we're not going anywhere anytime soon in terms of off air, so hard to say.
That sounds awesome. I really like the direction that you're talking about, and I feel like you guys have a unique take on the whole actual play genre in the podcasting. And was there anything that I didn't ask that you guys feel like you wanted to talk about a little bit, or just add to what we've spoken about?
I think as far as... Because your podcast is a lot about DMing advice.
Yep.
And I would say that for people looking to be first-time GMs or first-time DMs, or even making their own TTRPG for the first time, because Matt and I have interviewed quite a few people who have done that, and we've gotten all sorts of different advice. It's one of our standard questions to ask. I'd say don't worry too much about doing things exactly the way you think they're supposed to be. For example, Matt is very much a fuck it, we bowl kind of outline and then go. And then we ran into the thing when we were cooperating on Deep Dark and then on Blister Critters where I need to have everything sorted out. I have every line of dialogue, every NPC can say in every situation in a document for me to look at. I'd say don't worry too much. Take advice, listen to people who have DM'd before and your friends and everywhere else, but don't worry if what works for them does not work for you. What works for me would not work for Matt. What works for Matt does not work for me. It'll be the same for any two DMs, GMs, whatever.
I would say whatever system you want to play it. If you play a system that someone doesn't know, doesn't like, who cares what their opinion is? If you want to play it, enjoy it. There's plenty of systems out there that people just go, oh, why you want to play that for? Oh, that's not mainstream. Or, oh, what's this? Do it. Enjoy it. Own it. There's plenty of games that we've probably played that a lot of people would just take one look at and be like, nah, it's not for us. It's not D&D. You know what I mean?
I love it. Honestly, I know for a fact that I have people that listen to this podcast who need to hear that. So thank you for spreading the good word. And I think both of you guys made some excellent points. And I definitely encourage my listeners to listen to your podcast, especially your interviews, because you're interviewing a lot of indie designers and they have a unique perspective that you said is not necessarily in the mainstream. And I think that's one of the things that I find is really attractive about your podcast is going off the beaten path, because people can listen to a D&D podcast and, you know, as much as I love Call of Cthulhu, it's like there's Call of Cthulhu is out there, but, you know, some of these more indie games, they need that love. And, you know, you guys definitely have your niche or niche. I'm not sure how you say that. Is there anything you guys wanted to plug before we wrap this all up?
I mean, other than come and find us, I mean, we're all human at the end of the day. 9 times out of 10, if you message us on socials, it's me. Just say hi. You know, we're not going to bite your head off. You want to chat with us? Come chat with us. We have a Discord. Can invite you to. Yeah, I mean, we're on Instagram, Twitter, Twitter currently X, Blue Sky, TikTok, YouTube, Apple, and wherever else you can find podcasts. Yeah, just look for A Pint of Cthulhu.
I can attest. Well, that was how we ended up meeting, was through Blue Sky, and I've joined your Discord, and everybody is super friendly there and very welcoming. And you guys have been amazing to get to know in the short time.
Oh, thank you.
So I feel really blessed and fortunate to have made your acquaintance on this terrestrial planet, and hope to continue to do so.
You know, the thing about that is it's so easy to not connect and just completely ignore. I could have looked at your message and shrugged and carried on. You know, the amount of people that do that and then miss out on opportunities like this. It's ridiculous. What's the harm in saying hi, you know?
No, you're right. I just wanted to say thank you very much for coming on the podcast. It's been an immense pleasure and an honor to do this. You guys have been fantastic guests. So yeah, I just want to thank you, Matt and Jay, for coming on the show and sharing your thoughts and the passion that you have for the gaming community and indie RPGs and just actual play podcasts. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you. Honestly, it's been really nice being able to go on here and just chat.
Yeah, we're seeing the other side of the screen for once. It's weird.
I know it is, isn't it?
All right. Well, that's it. And I will talk to you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Greetings, listener. This is I, Hector, the real dungeon plunger, not that milk drinker Jason. We in the dungeon always appreciate whatever love you can give us. So please, share the podcast, send your messages, and do anything that will unclog our algorithm. We really appreciate it. Plungers, up!